Okay, welcome. So this session is jam-packed. There is a lot of content we're going to cover. I just wanted you to know that there are some really cool handouts. So at the bottom of this module, you'll have the links there to download them. One of them I've included is one that I made a year or two ago, and it is about the sixth house in medical astrology. It's really quite important, but it goes really into depth and it gives you I think there's a diagram in there of how to show the zodiac ruler of the house. So, are you a sixth house Aquarius or sixth house? It'll make sense in a minute, but that's a really good handout and I've included that for your reference. But yeah, this is um, a big session because we're going from houses, then we're going to learn aspects, and then we're going to learn the steps of chart interpretation. So it is coming together really quickly. And just, a reminder, we are looking at birth charts. We're not looking at transits or anything like that. We are just looking at your birth chart. Agenda, houses, aspects, ruler, chart analysis, easy peasy. Okay, William Lilly to Nicholas Culpeper. You, as an apothecary and physician, you should consult your planetary influences in each patient to regulate your prescription accordingly. In that case, I am persuaded that more immediate relief will in most cases be afforded the sick and languishing patient. Astrological science should be very useful in guiding your medical inquiries to produce the cure of overt and latent diseases. I thought that was a really cool quote. Really just speaking to how medical astrology can really help when you're trying to understand a patient's constitution, or if you're using like transits and stuff like that, how the illness may be presenting. But that doesn't worry us right now. I just think that's a really cool quote. Where to start? So this is a basic course. We will delve deeper into a few main houses concerned with health while still touching on all 12 houses for context. So, there is 12 houses, but there are going to be some key ones that we focus in on, which are really quite important in understanding a person's constitution or health. So the houses, as you can see, there's a picture here on the right. This isn't to do with medical astrology, but it gives you a diagram of how the zodiacal wheel is segmented and sectioned into 12 different sections. The houses are the 12 segments or divisions of the zodiac wheel. Each segment equals a house. So you can see the numbers on the inside of that wheel showing you number 1, 2, 3, 4 through to 12, going anti-clockwise. Each house represents a different area of life, or in this case, areas of the body. It has a traditional ruler or zodiac sign whose energy plays into the nature of that house. Note, the signs represent areas of the body first and foremost. The signs represent areas of the body first and foremost. So for example, Gemini and the lungs. The houses represent areas of the body to a degree also, but is more secondary, and the sign should be given more weight than the houses. For example, Aries represents the head more than the first house, whose traditional ruler is Aries. So I hope that makes sense to you. That first house, we can see it there on the screen. That is the home of Aries. The second would be the home of Taurus. The third of Gemini. The fourth Cancer. Fifth Leo. Sixth Virgo. Seventh Libra. Eighth Scorpio. Ninth Sag. 10th Capricorn. 11th Aquarius. And 12th Pisces. That would be their home base. But when you read charts, you will see that those signs will move into different positions. So the first house will not always be Aries. You may want to read through that slide a few times. Just really focus on that note, how the signs represent areas of the body more so than the houses in medical astrology. Okay, so this is a diagram I made. I'm quite fond of it. It's nice and colourful. It is showing you all the houses and the traditional rulers. So that's just kind of what I went over. But you can see house 1, traditional ruler Aries. Then you've got house 2, traditional ruler Taurus, house 3, Gemini, 4, and so on and so forth. There is a copy of this diagram in the handouts below for you to keep, print out, put on your wall, study. It's really, really useful. It explains what each house, governs. And the ones that are in yellow are the ones that are more so emphasized when we're doing medical astrology. So please note, when we look at actual charts, you will sometimes come across different charts and they divide their house system differently. So some will have 12 equal sized houses, others will have unevenly sized houses. That is okay. There are different ways of dividing up the night sky. We will work with the Placidus house system, and I will show you that in the next slide. Okay, so on the left you can see it says Placidus, and the wheel below it, that is the Placidus house system. That is the house system we will be looking at and using throughout this course. However, I want to show you on the right we have an equal house whole sign chart as well. It is perhaps a little easier to read, as you can see each house is divided up into an equal size, so nothing is bigger or smaller, they're all equal, and they all have one sign for each house. So you see the first is Gemini, the second house is Cancer. There is nothing overlapping or in between, so it's very straightforward and easy to read. If at the end of this course you prefer looking at a chart like that, absolutely go for it. This was used for a really, really long time through the Hellenistic period, for a couple thousand years, especially in medical astrology. I think traditionally medical astrology used the Regiomontanus house system. So if you want to deep dive and try a different house system, that's one that you can look at. However, keeping it simple, for this course, we are going to use the Placidus, which is the one on the left. You can see that each house is a slightly different size, and that the signs do not line up with the houses. I'm not trying to make your life difficult. However, a lot of modern astrology is, modern astrologers and astrology, they do refer to a Placidus house system. Not all, but you'll see it a lot. So I think if you're familiar with that and know how to read it, it's probably really good. Then you can swap over to a different house system and it's not a big deal. So that booklet I've mentioned on the 6th house in astrology, this is a snippet I've taken out of it. This is showing you how to read the ruler of each house, how to understand it. So I've taken the 6th house as an example. You can do this for every house so you know the ruler. You can see the line between the 5th and 6th house. You see I've circled the number 6 there. That's the 6th house. There's that line I've highlighted. The sign on the cusp of the 6th house, so that's the line that demarcates between the 5th and the 6th house. You look at the sign on that, and the sign is Aquarius. So you can see Aquarius is cut in half into the 5th and 6th house. So the 6th house, because we are moving anti-clockwise when you look at charts, that 6th house is ruled by Aquarius. You say, oh, but Pisces is in there too. Yep, it is, but it is ruled by Aquarius. So in this chart, the 6th house is ruled by Aquarius. So let's do another example in this chart. The 10th house, right at the top there. The line that demarcates between the 9th and the 10th house, what sign is at the end of that? Is Gemini. Let me draw that in for you. I'll use purple. So we're looking here at the end of this line. This is the line that demarcates between the 9th and 10th house. The sign at the end of it is Gemini. So the 10th house is ruled by Gemini. Yes, there's a lot of Cancer in that 10th house, but we're going to say the 10th house is ruled by Gemini. And I'll do another example. So the ascendant, the first house. So here we've got number 1. So we know this is the first house here, this whole section. The demarcation between the 12th and the first house, that's this line here. It lands in Virgo. So this whole first house is ruled by Virgo. I hope that makes sense. Again, this is actually written out step by step, just knowing the house, you know, who rules the house, which sign rules the house. It's written in that PDF book that I've attached at the bottom for the 6th house specifically, but it applies to every house. That is how you read. So, for example, in this chart, can I erase any of that? Yep, nice. So in this chart, first house, Virgo. Second house, it's just in Scorpio. Scorpio rules the second house of this chart. Third house, the line is just in Sag, so they're third house Sag. Fourth house is also in Sag, so Sag also rules the 4th house. The 5th house here is in Capricorn, so they are Capricorn 5th house. The 6th house, Aquarius, so there's 6 houses in Aquarius. The 7th house is in Pisces, so they are Pisces in the 7th house. 8th house, so Aries got skipped here, which is happens in some charts. Their 8th house is ruled by Taurus. 9th house by Gemini. Just, you can sort of see it's only like a degree or 2 in there. The 10th house is Gemini, so they are Gemini 10th house. They are Cancer 11th house and Leo 12th house. I hope that makes sense to you. It should do. Just, you know, go over this lecture. You're looking at the demarcation between the houses. And remember that we are always moving that way in a chart. So starting here at number 1 to number 2, number 3, and so on. That demarcation line, whatever sign is at the end of that, rules the house. So how planets and placements modify each other's energy. So this is aspects we're talking about. What is an aspect? In astrology, it refers to the relationships between planets or placements in the chart and how they affect each other, whether they support each other or challenge. It is the degree of distance between planets. Now, if you look at this picture on the right, you can see these different angles. You see at the very top where it says conjunction. A conjunction is where like 2 planets sit very close together, if not on top of each other. You can see a sextile, which is where they sit 60 degrees away from each other in the chart. A square, they sit 90 degrees. A trine, they're 120 degrees away from each other. So if any of these celestial bodies are in the vicinity of making these particular angles, that's what we call an aspect, and that means their energies are talking to each other. And I've just, you can see I've mentioned here, challenging aspects. We've got an opposition, so when they're on opposite sides of the chart, how do I get it in the frame there? Opposite sides of the chart. And a square, so when they're 90 degrees away. And you can see in the diagram, a square at 90 degrees, if you were to keep going 90 degrees, it would make a square shape. A trine, if you were to do 120 degrees across, again, 120 degrees across, again, 120. It's a trine, like triangle, square, because it makes a square. Opposition, because they oppose each other, and a conjunction, because they are together, conjunction. Yeah. Moving on. Okay. So I'm describing the aspects here. And I'm giving, I guess, a bit of a metaphor for them. So an opposition, where they are opposite in the chart, like two boxes squaring off in opposite corners of the ring, sizing each other up with tension and resistance, each visible but opposing each other. So that is the nature of an opposition when two planets are opposite each other. It's not comfortable, but they can see each other. It's like a tug of war almost. A square, it's like two stubborn mules pulling a cart in different directions, creating strain and conflict. And yeah, just look at the picture on the right. You can see what a square is. It's when they're 90 degrees away from each other. A trine, so this is one of the more harmonious aspects. The energy of the planets flow between each other with harmony and ease. It's generally lucky, but sometimes it can bring too much ease, which in medical astrology can become a problem when something is too easy, too abundant, you get too much of something. A sextile, which is like a mini trine because it's 60 degrees, not 120. Harmony and ease between the planets. It's not as intensely good, it's still good, but the trine is really lucky. A sextile is just quite harmonious. And a conjunction, so when two planets are put together on top of each other or are almost, a couple of degrees away from each other, the energies of the two planets blend. So, as I've said in every lecture, I'm throwing a lot at you. We're bringing in lots and lots of layers, and it's at the end when we start reading charts that this will all start to make a bit more sense. Okay, I've just popped in a picture of a chart. Oh, that's right, because I just wanted to show you on this chart here. Again, this is from astro.com. You can use any chart generating equipment. I just like astro.com because it's quite comprehensive and it's free. As you see, there are all these red and blue lines going between the planets. These are the aspects. So the software highlights any planets that it finds an aspect and puts lines between it. Red means challenging, negative, whatever, and blue are the more harmonious aspects between planets. So you can see there's a few trines, sextiles, and squares here. There are no oppositions. You'll also notice a dotted green line. That's a quincunx, but we're not going to discuss that in this because it's, we could just go on forever learning about all these aspects. But yeah, where you see those lines, the red and blue, that is an aspect. Understanding who's the ruler. So each house is ruled by a sign, and this will be different in everyone's chart. That sign has a ruling planet. That planet is the ruler of the house. For example, if your first house is ruled by Virgo, meaning you have a Virgo ascendant. Oh, I can't even see what's behind it. Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury, and therefore Mercury is the ruling planet of the first house. So go over that again. If your first house, as an example, is ruled by Mercury, Virgo is, I've said it wrong. If your first house is ruled by Virgo, Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury. Therefore, Mercury is the ruling planet of the first house. Retrograde planets. The symbol Rx next to a planet indicates at the time the planet appeared to be in retrograde. That is, it appears to be moving backwards at the time the chart was cast. No planet changes trajectory and moves backwards. It's an optical trick. The general interpretation was that retrograde motion created a more internalized reflective expression of that planet's medical significations. For example, it can make the pathological effect of the planet more internalized, chronic, or hard to diagnose. With the exception of the nodes, which are always moving backwards compared to the planets. So that's just another thing to consider when you look at a chart. You might see a planet with RX next to it. Know that, because we're looking at birth charts, at the moment of someone's birth, a planet may have been retrograde, which means that from the Earth it appeared to be going backwards. However, just keep in mind, planets never move backwards. It is it's the appearance. I'm not going to explain it, but it just looks like it's moving backwards in the sky. Okay, I've thrown a lot at you over this session and the previous ones. So, steps to basic chart analysis. We're going to go through the steps of reading a chart. Now, this is really good instructional for if you want to systematically, slowly go through your chart or someone else's chart to read it. So when you look at someone's chart, before you get into the nitty-gritty, it's really good to know the dominant element and mode. So we know the elements, the fire, earth, air, and water. There are 3 modes. So each of the signs is designated to one of the modes. Cardinal, fixed, or mutable. And you can see I've listed next to it. The cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. Fixed signs Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. And the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces. The modes in medical astrology will represent health patterns. The cardinal signs are more prone to acute conditions, rapid onset, intense symptoms. Fixed signs will have more chronic conditions and more resistant to treatment and have more steady health issues. And the mutable signs are more prone to cyclical health patterns. They're a bit more adaptable and their symptoms can be a bit more variable. So you want to find the dominant element in a chart. You want to count the planets in each element or each sign. So how many planets are in fire signs, how many planets are in earth signs, how many planets are in water signs, how many planets are in air signs. You may want to give an extra point to the sun, moon, and ascendant. And for example, you've got 6 planets in fire signs, a couple in water, couple in air, couple in earth, but most of them are in fire signs. Well, then the dominant element for that chart would be fire. So we do the same for the modes. As you go around the chart, starting from the first, you got cardinal, fixed, mutable, cardinal, fixed, mutable, cardinal, fixed, mutable, cardinal, fixed, mutable. You're going to do the same. How many planets are in cardinal signs? How many planets are in mutable signs? How many planets are in fixed signs? Whichever one has the most planets, that's the dominant mode. So for example, you might be fire dominant and mutable dominant mode. And that just gives you an idea about the person's energetic pattern. Well, they're fiery, so they're, that governs energy, metabolism, inflammation, circulation, heat, vital forces high, but it's mutable. So there might be a variance in their symptoms. It might be a bit cyclical. It might be up and down. If you go to astro.com, I'm not sponsored by them. I just use them a lot. There will be a grid, and I'll show you that later, I think. And you can see that they've already laid out the mode and the elements, so you can see which has the dominant ones in there. Okay, so if you look at this is what I was just talking about from astro.com. On the left, there is a 3x4 grid, just next to the Cancer symbol there. And you can see across the top, I'm going to see if I can circle it with a pen. Here, you've got cardinal, fixed, mutable. And then on the side here, you've got fire, air, earth, water. So you can count in water, she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets, but I might give an extra point for the moon, so we'll go 6. Earth, 1, 2, 3. It's very hard to write with a tiny little mouse. Air, 2. Oh yeah, you can see up here whose chart it is. It's Lady Gaga's chart. It's an interesting one. Fire, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm going to give an extra point to the sun up here. So we go 5. So her dominant element is water, although she does have a lot of fire energy in her. So keep that in mind. So maybe dominant element water. Now her modes, cardinal. Remember we do 2 for the sun, 3, 4, 5. So cardinal we give 5. Fixed, give 2 for the moon, 3, 4. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the modes. MC means midheaven, which is actually this here. It's up to you if you want to count it or not. It's just a very, I did that terribly, it's a very public part of the chart. So she is predominantly mutable energy. So it's changeable, versatile, flexible, up and down. Dominant element, water, dominant mode, mutable. And if you wanted to look at that on the chart, you see there's the water signs, how many planets reside. So we've got water, how many planets reside in water there, 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 you count them up, okay? How many planets are in fire signs, and you just go through like that if you wanted to do it manually. So now we've got an overall pattern by knowing the dominant element and dominant mode. That just gives you an idea, a really broad idea of someone's energetic patterns. And that, you know, that can be enough to go off sometimes if you just want to have a really broad understanding of someone's constitution from their birth chart. But let's go into reading a chart a bit further. So step 1, assess the luminaries. Where, like, we're going to look for the moon and the sun and how are they feeling, because they have a big impact on our health. So for the sun and moon, what sign are they in? What house are they in? What element is that? So we have the sun and it's in Pisces. You've taken the warm, vital sun and you've plunged it into the depths of the ocean because it's a watery element in Pisces. So the vitality there might be a bit muted. What house is it in? You want to check the mode as well. And like I just said, sort of check the temperature. So the example here is the cool, moist moon in a fire sign. How do you think the moon feels about being put into the fire sign? Probably a bit uncomfortable. Or is the moon in its home sign of Cancer? Well, then the moon's probably flourishing there and really comfortable. Just things to consider. Do they aspect? So does the sun and moon, do each of them aspect any of the benefic signs, Venus or Jupiter, or the malefics? If they aspect the benefics, well, there's a positive influence, isn't it? Then you go look at where that planet is. Or if a malefic like Mars or Saturn is making an aspect to it, well then it's possible that it's in a more challenging position because that energy would be applying to them. And check if it's retrograde. Actually, that doesn't apply to the sun and moon. The sun and moon don't ever retrograde. But if you're looking at any other planets, for example, if you're looking at Saturn, if you checked if Saturn is retrograde, because that will affect the energy as well. So, which sign rules the 6th house? This will indicate the nature of the daily rituals and health interventions required on a regular basis to take care of the person's health. Think of the 6th house as things we have to do as a ritual and a service to ourselves very regularly, if not every day, to maintain health. Again, refer back to the houses chart for a reminder of these meanings. It also, the 6th house gives information about the person's digestion and ability to assimilate nutrients. So find out the sign that rules that 6th house. Like the example I gave you before, someone had Aquarius ruling the 6th house. So what do they need to do every day to make sure that they can maintain their health? Well, it might be reducing EMF exposure. It might be making sure that they have good circulation. It might be ensuring they have adequate iron so that they don't have like anemia or anything. These are all very Aquarian in nature. It might be making sure that they have good lymphatic drainage so that their lower legs don't swell or anything like that. That's all Aquarian. So that's an example if you had Aquarius on the 6th house. And check, are there any planets in the 6th house? Because the planets will impart their pathological action or energy into that house. Also making sure, sorry, there's a glitch there, also making sure that you know the mode of the 6th house. And that can tell you the nature of the illness that someone is prone to getting should they not attend to their health as a daily ritual. Also, are there any planets aspecting the cusp of the 6th house? So remember I was talking about the demarcation between houses, the line between the 5th and the 6th, or between any houses, that line, that demarcation, that is called the cusp. So if there are any planets making an aspect to the cusp of the 6th, they can impact the energy of the 6th house as well. So for example, if Mars and Saturn are making any kind of aspect, whether that's a conjunction, opposition, sextile, square, trine, those things that we just went through before, is that Mars and Saturn, they can make challenges of the 6th house worse because Mars and Saturn are our challenging planets. We call them the malefics. However, they're not all bad, but they do bring more challenges. Or is it Venus or Jupiter? Are they making any aspect to the cusp of the 6th house? If so, it can help support or ease, reduce any sort of health issues around that 6th house. What the ruling element is of the sign that rules the 6th house. So the example I gave was Aquarius, which is an air sign. So this person, a person with the Aquarius 6th house, may be more prone to digestive wind, nervous weak digestion, respiratory issues. So consider that element, not just the sign, but the nature of the element, and that can give you some clues as to how the health may be impacted or the areas of health that need constant attending to maintain vitality. So now we've looked at the 6th house, we've pulled a lot of information. Cool. Let's go to the 1st house. Remember, the 1st house is the ascendant. If you look back to the chart, it's how we handle stress, it's the adrenal response, it's our physical vitality, and how we face the world. The ruling sign of the 1st house determines the nature of the 1st house of physical body, head, and stress response. For example, a Sagittarius 1st house may have a larger build because of the Jupiter rulership, expanse of big Jupiter. They may be athletic, prone to accidents, sciatic issues when they overdo things. So this is all in response to stress. Predominantly in medical astrology, that 1st house is the stress response. The element can offer valuable insight into the nature of the person's physicality. So we've said Sag, which is a fire sign, so it's an active, energetic kind of constitution that is presented outwardly. So again, this will do really well when you refer to the houses. So have that houses chart up whilst you're watching this, perhaps on the side, split your screen and just refer back to the houses. And this will make more and more sense. The ruling sign determines the nature of the 1st house physical head stress response. So any planets within the 1st house emphasize their nature or their flavor in the 1st house. So someone with Neptune in the 1st house it might indicate a tendency towards depletion of energy, because remember, the pathological action of Neptune is dissolving and depleting. So if we have dissolving and depleting Neptune in the first house of energy, and how we handle stress, that means that that person might have a depleted energy, or they might feel drained of energy, or stress might really drain their energy. So I'm just trying to show you how to interpret that. Mars in the first house might indicate a tendency to physical activity, wounds to the head, or adrenal burnout. So like I said, the first house is how we handle stress, our physical vitality, how we face the world. We've got Mars in there. Well, maybe we're actually super aggressive, super physical, have a lot of energy. And on the other hand, it might cause you to burn yourself out, or, have wounds to the head, which is really very first house Martian. Where is Saturn? That's a really important planet to look at in medical astrology birth charts. We use Saturn to find the likely seat of chronic disease or hypofunction. So what sign is Saturn in? That determines the body area where there is limited energetic flow, restriction, underfunctioning, or potential toxic buildup. And then check for any positive or challenging aspects to Saturn, because that adds another layer of interpretation. Yeah, we'll just keep moving. I can't give too many examples or I'll be here forever, but like I said, we will go through a chart reading. Where is Mars? So Mars tells us where the likely seat of inflammation is for this person. Check what sign, house, and positive or challenging aspects. Where is the South Node? So that's an area of potential energy loss, leakage, or weakness. So we check for the sign and we check for any positive or challenging aspects. So it's constantly layering information and then bringing it all together to interpret it. Whereas Chiron, find the deep-seated inner wound, which can guide us to healing powers. And check for any positive or challenging aspects. So putting it all together in summary, you're going to check the first house and the sixth house. Can we do more than this? Absolutely, but this is a beginner's intro course. So we're just going to check those two houses because we're just looking at someone's birth chart to get their constitution. We're going to look at the sun and moon, Saturn and Mars, maybe the South Node, maybe Chiron. So check what house they're in and sign and any aspects to them. So I hope this summary actually brings it together for you, because I know what I explained to you is quite confusing. But that's just a really good checklist of things to look at. So these are some basics to understand the main points of a chart. You can apply many of these rules to other planets and nodes to check on their state as well. So you just check what sign they're in, what house, any aspects to them. But like I said, this is a basics beginner course, so I don't want to go into that much depth and overwhelm you. You'll need to take time to review this content to put it into action. And just remember that it usually takes minimum 2 to 3 indicators to suggest a health issue. So perhaps you have a square, a challenging aspect to Mars. Does that mean you have a constitutional predisposition to inflammation because Mars is challenged? Not necessarily. If your Mars, however, has 4 red lines coming off of it, so it has 4 challenging aspects, yeah, you're going to have to look at Mars. That is going to be a constitutional challenging sore point. So just keep in mind that you need a few indicators to suggest a health issue. Okay, that brings us to the end of that session, and I'll see you in the next one.